Hey Reese, could I get your help with something?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm trying to come up with a new short film, but I can't think of anything I like.
You could explain how all the short films are connected. That'd be pretty meta.
Hmm. Hello, Internet, and welcome to SanditeTV Theory, the show that really needs a better name. Anyway, I've been a SanditeTV student for 3 years now. Or depending on when you're watching this, I was a SanditeTV student for 3 years and have since graduated. But during that time, me and my friends have made plenty of short films, ranging from the box office flops like Ghostbusting and High Seas to the massive hits like School Days and Legion of Lambos. And we always talked about everything existing in one cohesive universe, putting references to each other's short films in our own. But what's the actual timeline? What's the story that pulls all of these short films together to make the SanditeTV Cinematic Universe, or STVCU? Well, folks, today that's what I'm here to uncover. After discussing it with other directors and working for countless minutes, I finally have it. And before someone calls me out saying, oh, it's just some short films, I'm thinking too hard about it, and it's not that deep, you're completely correct. Let's move on. Now, before we get into this, I do want to give a quick explanation as to how the timeline's laid out. See, the whole thing is going to be separated into 3 main categories. Those categories are Phase 1, the beginnings, Phase 2, the Lamo saga, and a part that, for now, I'm just going to call the subplot, which takes place during Phase 1. Oh, and if you want the release order, here it is. I also have some films happening at the same time, or at least on the same day. This is either because some characters or plot lines are present in multiple short films, or it's the complete opposite and nothing's overlapping, so I have them there for simplification. I've also been told I should mention that, like Marvel, we have different universes that make up their own timelines. These timelines include short films from Ms. Thompson's other classes, the ones that I wasn't in, and I don't actually plan on going over them because they aren't part of our main universe timeline. But now that we've got all that out of the way, let's begin. Our story begins in a world that seemingly runs on cartoon logic. Battles can casually start in a classroom, but once the bell rings, it's on to lunch despite potential mass casualties. People will act like Jack Sparrow, RoboCop, or King Arthur, and no one will bat an eye. And we start by following one of those people. This is... what was his name again?
Humphrey Nathaniel Leonard III of the Duchy of the Eastern Lands, noble Viscount of my home Estonia, descendant of my father Humphrey Nathaniel Leonard II.
Right, how could I forget? We follow him and his appointed squire in the short film What Ho, as their stupidity leads them to continuous nonsense. Nothing significant happens, so we're just going to move on to the next day where we follow Henry Nathaniel. This dude's friend in Welcome to High School, as he just goes about a normal day in high school. Or at least as normal as it gets around here, considering he went to history class just for a war to start. Luckily, there were no casualties, is what I would say if I was a liar.
Oh, heavens!
On the same day, we see a documentary about how everyone hates Reese in a cleverly named short film, Everybody's Got a Problem with Reese. I have these 2 films on the same day because Reese kills Humphrey Nathaniel Leonard III in Welcome to High School, and reveals that he hid him in a closet and Everybody's Got a Problem with Reese. The next day, we see pirates doing pirate shenanigans in High Seas, Red struggling with The Easiest Test, and me getting stuck in a closet and going insane in The Closet. None of these overlap, so they're all on the same day. And can we talk about the week that my character's having for a second? He gets voluntold to be some dude's squire for the day, then goes to school the next day and watches that same guy get killed in an active war zone. And to top it off, the day after that, he gets trapped in a closet with no way out, and we're only halfway through the week. Suddenly him going crazy makes a lot more sense to me. Moving forward, you might want to make sure that you're paying attention, because this is where the lore starts. Wait, hold on, this is a game theory video, I have to say it right. This is where the lore starts! Much better. After all that, we get to watch a news broadcast in their news segment, Top Stories Today, where we see stories about dog shelters, people with strange diseases, celebrity drama, oh, and the robots planning to take over.
The human race is a pestilence that must be wiped from this earth. True happiness and order cannot be achieved with flesh. Submit, we shall bless you with your true form of steel.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd be so vocal about it either. Following that, we watch a mystery unfold in Mike B. Private Eye. And at first I wasn't really sure where the short film would go in the timeline, but then I remembered one little reference I threw in at the very end. Now, if you don't mind, I think I'm gonna go listen to some jazz music. Did you see it? Once you look past all the bad acting, you'll notice one crucial detail. Right at the end, Mike B walks away smiling and snapping his fingers rhythmically. And if you've been a fan of the SanditeTV films, or heck, just the Carboxyl Group films, you'll know exactly what this means. Mike B has been infected. Infected by the thing he loves most, jazz music. And thus we enter the Jazzpocalypse. Basically what happens in this film is a virus spreads across the world, very similar to a zombie virus, but to get infected, you don't get bitten by the infected or killed. Instead, you simply have to listen to jazz music. Once a person's been infected with the jazz virus, they start to smile creepily and snap their fingers rhythmically. And unlike the undead rotting corpses of most media, the jazz zombies retain a good portion of their intelligence, making them that much more dangerous. And while it's never explicitly stated in Jazzpocalypse, it's presumed that the robots who plan to destroy the world in top stories today are the ones who created the virus and let it loose on the human population. And that means that the robots won. They got what they wanted and destroyed the world Walking Dead style, leaving nothing but a few survivors around the world. Which leads me to the next two films on the list, Guess That Guy and Dr. Nixon's Guide to Universal Travel. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is a game show and a full-scale science experiment happening when you just said the world ended? And I'm not sure if you're gonna like the answer. I and the other director in charge of the timeline have made the executive decision that these short films happen during the Jazzpocalypse in some sort of survival base. Now, I know that doesn't make any sense, and you wouldn't even know that just by watching them, but hear me out. After the Jazzpocalypse started, people started seeking shelter away from the virus, which is where we find this group in Guess That Guy, which includes returning characters such as Beauregard Smatherton, Joey Palpernackintosh, and a character that I wish would just die already, Dork Dennis. But why are they filming a game show, you might ask? Well, the simple answer is they were bored. They had been stuck in a bunker for way too long and were probably starting to go a little bit crazy. I imagine it's like that one episode of The Office where everyone's afraid of losing their job, so Michael Scott starts a murder mystery game to take their minds off of it and keep them from stressing out.
I do believe that the game is a big hit. People are really diving into their characters.
Y'all.
To keep themselves from thinking about their impending doom, they play make-believe, but in another location, a scientist named Dr. Nixon decided that he wanted to be a little more proactive. During the fake game show, Dr. Nixon and his assistant Peter, aka the only other guy with him, made a machine that could send them to another reality. A reality without the virus. But little did they know that this machine would have great effects on the world they were leaving. And you can actually see the world change in Guess That Guy when Dork Dennis and Beauregard swap places. Here are the clips next to each other so you can get a better understanding.
3, 2. Our mystery guest is
No! No!
Dork Dennis!
And while it isn't shown due to the game show ending, with each use of the machine, their reality changes little by little until it's a different world entirely. And with the world being completely different, that means that phase 1 is over, and now we're entering... Sorry for the interruption, but before we enter the next era of the timeline, I need to give a quick explanation to the part of the timeline that I previously named the subplot. This all takes place alongside phase 1, but doesn't interact with the main phase 1 storyline for reasons that I'll explain later. Now, let's get into it. This timeline begins with a story of some dude receiving a quest from this guy, remember him for later, and failing, and to be completely honest with you, I'm not really sure what's happening in the short film. It's one of the lower quality ones. Regardless, it's in the timeline, and we then travel a few years into the future to see the most fight ever. A fight scene where the two people are able to bend time and space like it's an anime, followed by Zombie in the Hallway, a story about a dead guy in a school hallway, and That One Day at School, a film about someone breaking into a school just for us to figure out that it didn't really happen, I think. It gets a little confusing at the end. Afterwards we see... Wait, is this right? Are you telling me we did this twice? Alright. We see a local news broadcast. This time, however, it's about a local politician, and his presidential campaign is, I'll just let you see it.
I promise that by the end of 2026, only the elite will be able to vote. 40% of our population will be homeless. Public education will be no longer existent.
Yeah, it's interesting, but the crowd seems to love it. After the breaking news is over, we see a day in the life of two high school students who are suspicious of one of their classmates being an NPC. During the day, the new classmate displays more and more signs of being a bit strange, eventually initiating a cutscene and starting a boss fight. Yeah, if that's not the proof he was looking for, I don't know what is. Towards the end of that film, the camera zooms out to reveal that everything was just a simulation in a secret government facility. Yep, the subplot is actually the simulation, meaning everything was
Fake! We don't matter! That building! That's fake! This street! It's fake! That car!
In finding out that everything in these short films was part of a government simulation, we find that the simulated person in question, yeah, this guy, was defective and acts like an NPC due to early stage coding, and became sentient because of bugs in the system which we see people exploit in the most fight ever. These guys exploiting glitches causes them to get worse, and we see that in the next two short films. Luckily, they were fixed at the end of that one day at school, resetting the simulation and putting it back on track, which is why no one seems to remember the break-in. What the government agents don't know is that the NPC's programming allowed him to evolve. After they had turned off their computers to go to lunch, he appears on the screen, meaning he is much more powerful than they realize. But wait, where have I heard about a powerful sentient AI?
Next up, our final feel-good story of today. The robot overlords have announced their plan to eradicate the human race.
Oh, that's right. So, to recap the important events, the government starts a simulation to test the world in different scenarios. During the early stages of the simulation's creation, they use video game code to create the people, which is where the NPC comes from. After bugs in the system become present and simulation people start exploiting them, the government agents have to fix the simulation. But those bugs affect the NPC. He eventually evolves and becomes sentient, and after escaping the simulation, he plots to destroy the world, very publicly might I add, by creating a virus that spreads through the consumption of jazz music, which plagues the world. In a survival bunker at an undisclosed location, a scientist creates a machine in hopes of escaping the jazz apocalypse into another universe. The machine works and they finally escape into the multiverse, getting lost in the process. But in doing so, they begin to change the reality they came from until the world they left behind was barely recognizable. I think I did it! I solved the lore of Phase 1! Now I can finally slow down and continue with Phase 2. Unfortunately, there's no big overarching story like there was in Phase 1. Trust me, I looked for it. There isn't one. Just a few overlapping characters. Regardless, they are all still in the same universe, and I am obligated to explain in what order. So, let's continue. In this world, there's a group of people who have evolved with this world's equivalent of the Marvel's X gene. This gene gives people certain abilities, but these abilities generally have some kind of strange caveat, or they're just not that impressive, making them useless and lame. These people were all but shunned and cast out as freaks and weirdos until one day a group of these people who call themselves the Legion of Lamos came together to change the way the world sees them and fight injustice. That's pretty much where any lore stops, so let's speedrun the rest, shall we? After Legion of Lamos, we have School Days, a story about a guy who needs way more sleep. Then, Inside the Mind of Virgil Hammond. This film was peak, would recommend. After that, it's Don't Overthink It, and Ghostbusting after that, which is not about what the name would imply. Get your head out of the gutter. Fast forward a few years and we see Classroom, a spoof on the show Community. Fast forward a few more years and those people actually work together, with Todd being Alex's boss in Procrastination. Post-production Micah here. As of the making of this video, another film's come out that takes place in the timeline. I also realized that there are a couple films that I didn't place in the timeline, and if I didn't explain myself, I know that certain people would be all over me about it. Let's start with the one in the timeline, The Tragedy of Waylon Jeffrey. This film takes place not long after Legion of Lamos. We know that because of this picture of a Shark Hands Hand Class President poster, try and say that 5 times fast, which was taken on set during production. This means the films have to be close enough to each other for most of the team to still be at the school, which is why it gets its spot on the timeline. Now for the other two short films. My new short film and this video that you're watching right now. My new short film is about me trying to figure out what I'm going to make my next film about, and is supposed to take place in the real world, which you see because we make jokes about making sequels to our previous films like Mike B and Jazzpocalypse. And for this video, well, do I even need to explain why this is not in the timeline? And with that, I've done it. I took 3 years of random short films and put them all in a cohesive timeline. It's kind of funny because in the beginning, we weren't thinking about how these short films were connected. We just used each other's characters for the funny and eventually came around to the idea of a cinematic universe. This little project actually got me thinking about the last few years, making short films with friends, discovering my passion for storytelling and film, and I even met my favorite teacher, Mr. Ross. This is a joke, by the way. Obviously, it's Miss Thompson. I had a great time these past few years, and maybe one day, someone will pick up the torch and continue the SanditeTV cinematic universe. But hey, that's just a theory. A SanditeTV theory! Go Sandites!